Good afternoon and welcome to today's presentation, Advanced Online Management for Attorneys and Clients. The information presented by the expert is not to be used as legal advice and does not indicate a working relationship with the expert. All materials obtained from this presentation are merely for educational purposes and should not be used in a court of law sans the expert's consent, i.e. a business relationship where she or he is hired for your particular case. In today's webinar, Somal and Rajiv will discuss Understanding ORM, Attorneys, Firms, and Clients, ORM Repair, Best Practices and Key Strategies, Case Studies, and Summary. To give you a little background about our presenters, Somal is the Chief Financial Officer at Blue Ocean Global Wealth and Blue Ocean Global Technology. Somal is a CFA charter holder, a CFP professional, and a Charter Alternative Investment Analyst SM. Somal is a frequent speaker on the digital revolution, succession planning, technology, diversity, retirement, financial planning, entrepreneurship, and leadership. Rajiv Sharma is the Chief Sales Officer at Blue Ocean Global Technology. His leadership and experience include successful client engagements in over 50 countries. A senior software engineer, Rajiv is well-versed in open source development, standardization of technologies, and industry best practices. Rajiv oversees client workflow, evaluates technology infrastructure, and provides solutions to improve organizational performance. Attendees who require a passcode, the word for today is online. During the Q&A session, we ask that you enter this passcode into the Q&A widget for CLE reporting purposes. The Q&A is located to the left of your screen. Please remember that if you are applying for CLE credit, you must log on to your computer as yourself and stay for the full 60 minutes. You are also required to complete the survey at the end of the program. Please note that CLE credit cannot be given to those watching together on a single computer. Tomorrow morning, we will send out an email with a link to the archived recording of the webinar. The slides can be downloaded from the resource list at the widget at the bottom of your screen. Thank you all for attending today, and Somal and Rajiv, the presentation is now turned over to you.
Thank you, Lauren. Welcome, everyone. We're so excited to be here. My name is Somal. I'm here with my colleague, Rajiv Sharma.
Hello, everyone.
We are delighted and honored to build upon the program we delivered last week on reputation management. And today we're going to talk about advanced online reputation management for attorneys and clients. This is an expansive subject we certainly share in TASA's Foundation of Education, and so we hope you leave here with a little bit better framework on reputation management and how you can better help both your firm and your practice. As Lauren mentioned, our agenda for today, we've got a lot to cover, so we're going to get started. Understanding online reputation management, attorneys, firms, and clients. So what is reputation? Reputation is comprised of impressions, emotions, and perception. A reputation can be defined as the estimation which a business, person, or thing is held by a particular company or the public at large. What makes reputation difficult is there's no scale. You can't measure it. Like revenue is a number. There's no scale to measure reputation. So it's somewhat intangible, which makes it opportunistic.
So we talk about what is online reputation management. It's a process of building, monitoring, and repairing the digital content that appears when someone looks upon a company or individual on the internet. Building new relationships, fostering trust, and earning respect are all a function of our reputation. There are around more than 5.5 billion searches performed for different reasons on Google, including finding a restaurant or a gift for your mother, or researching the new or next law firm to engage with. ORM can also be described as the art and science of applying digital proof to your business success.
Online reputation for lawyers?
Now, what is online reputation for lawyers? What does it mean? Your digital reputation directly impacts your professional opportunity set because clients, your prospects, your strategic partners rely on search engines to learn about your experience and determine your credibility. So if you want to find an attorney with a good reputation, you're going to check it online. It provides reassurance to potential clients that they have found a good lawyer they can trust. The online landscape of social media has changed the traditions of business development. by broadening the opportunities to connect with existing and potential customers and reinforcing the Internet as the central focus for a law firm's marketing presence.
Online reputation repair for attorneys. So here we have listed some of the issues that may take place for why an attorney may need reputation help or repair. And out of the listed scenarios, review websites are only designed as a forum. You see for the very last line, genuinely an upset customer. These sites all have policies. So today we're going to talk about reputation management for attorneys, for firms, and for clients. Of course, a segment of that is reviews. What do you do and what takes place? We're going to review some cases as to when there have been reviews and how attorneys responded to them. So that's certainly an area of acute interest we know from all of you out there today. Online reputation management for law firms. So the digital reputation management, when compared with traditional brand marketing, it's a relatively new frontier. Applicable guidance, relevant information, and proven research are somewhat limited. Almost 2 decades ago, it was argued that online perceptions and opinions, regardless of accuracy, are as impactful on a company's reputation as the actual actions taken by the organization. So I would think many of us agree with that today. You are what you are online. And many attorneys will assert that the number one way they receive new business is through referrals. And it's important to understand that a referral will call an attorney. Before they call that attorney, they'll probably look you up online. And so making sure that your reputation online is representative of who you are and how you've helped clients in providing value is certainly fundamental.
So we talk about a partner, like why online reputation management is important. So we talk about a partner who was erroneously accused of harassment and negligence from a disgruntled ex-employee. So there could be charges. The charges were dismissed when prospective or current clients Google the firm. The defamatory content still appears on page 1 of search results. So these kind of articles can adversely affect the reputation of each attorney and the law firm as well. So we are now guilty till proven innocent.
And so think about that. Some attorney or another attorney at your firm that has nothing to do with your practice has a reputation issue, and that may be adversely affecting. We've seen that happen over and over again. Social media policy for law firms. As a counterpoint to the professional and ethical responsibility issues raised by social media, there are personal ownership issues. While Facebook pages and LinkedIn profiles can reflect negatively on a firm, they are clearly owned by the individual lawyer, not the firm. Most importantly, social media is crucial for branding, business development tool for both individual lawyers and the firm. And so it's important to note that you want to have a social media policy. Oftentimes when people look you up online, social media are, because they're some of the highest and authoritative websites, are one of the first that people visit. And if you look back, there was a study several years ago that said that more than 22% of adults who are looking to hire an attorney, I think this is almost 5 years ago, look to social media to validate that lawyer. And so for strategic social media engagement, you got to begin by defining your social media objectives. And so there's opportunity and there's also risk, and here we've outlined some policy considerations that we get in depth with clients.
So what is online reputation management for clients? Reactionary clients' need for ORM falls into 2 major categories: Internet defamation cases and reputation repair during or following a legal matter resulting from negative information on the Internet, which harms or detracts from an individual or company profile.
For example, your favorite client is exonerated and found not guilty of charges for, let's just say, a white-collar crime. But when the company, this person happens to be a business owner or executive, is Googled, they're still guilty online. So they're finding news articles of the arrest. They're finding articles that perhaps were out there about the court case and what's taken place. So these are real issues. So, I oftentimes call it digital expungement. Something takes place, how do you make sure that, you address that online? Let's talk a little bit about Internet defamation, which has become increasingly important. Internet defamation And even the best businesses, you could say, or law firms, cannot always keep every customer, every employee, every business partner happy at all times. And unfortunately, in this day and age, many of these disgruntled parties will choose to take their complaints public by posting disparaging information or content about a company online, which can cause significant damage. We're going to cover a case on that a little bit later in the presentation today, specific to Internet defamation. And such behavior has resulted in the rise of Internet defamation cases. But not every instance of potential Internet defamation should result in a lawsuit. Nevertheless, a business and its legal advisors should think through several key issues before potentially filing an Internet defamation suit.
So what is Internet defamation? It could be an unprivileged false statement of fact published for two or more than one person. People can view it, more than one person can view it, and it has caused harm to an individual or to the firm or to the organization as a unit altogether. So that is what is called Internet defamation.
So let's talk about a few considerations when filing Internet defamation lawsuits. One, the online criticism must come from someone with an ulterior motive. Like legitimate customer complaints based on opinion are not actionable. Not to mention they tend to cause little damage. However, when someone has posted false information with an intent to harm a business, this is likely an actionable case if the relevant statute of limitations has not elapsed. Disgruntled parties with ulterior motives may include competitors, ex-business partners, ex-spouses, and former employees. We've seen examples of all of those. If you have a competing law firm, if you have a client who has a business and they have a competing business and those competitors are putting things online, that is potential cause and reason for Internet defamation, for example. And interactive websites are immune from liability. Pursuant to Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act, which we're going to touch on a little bit later, most interactive websites are immune from the liability for the content created by a third-party user. So if I'm Facebook and somebody posts information on Facebook, Facebook is actually not held liable for that. Now, there could be issues and circumstances that would force Facebook to take the information down. Damages may, but they may not need to be proven. So defamation plaintiff must suffer actual, identifiable harm as a result of the defamation publication. Many states recognize what is known as defamation per se, where damages are presumed, but this requires that the defamation fall into certain categories that are considered defamatory on their face, such as charging the party with committing a crime or injuring them in the business or profession. Many states have laws to protect public rights of free speech from a disfavored type of lawsuit called a strategic lawsuit against public participation, which is, I think, named SLAP, is the acronym. The so-called anti-SLAP statutes are intended to prevent companies from silencing their critics by burdening them with the cost of legal defense. So a few other considerations. Harm parties must act quickly. So as alluded to earlier, all states impose statutes of limitations, essentially time limits in which the plaintiff must bring or file a particular claim. In Internet defamation cases, it's difficult to compel websites or search engines to remove content after the statute of limitation expires. Additionally, the longer the party waits to take action, the less likely it is that the Internet service provider will still possess the relevant data. Also, determine where a lawsuit can be filed. Often, Internet defamation victims and the actual defamers reside in different states, or a harmed company may be conducting business and thus suffering harm in multiple states. If a lawsuit is an option, an attorney should evaluate venue choices available to the business in consideration of the facts of the case. And then there's also determine if there may be an easier method to stop an attack and remove the defamation. Since each Internet defamation is fact-specific and unique, attorneys should consider whether there may be alternative methods of solving their client problems outside of filing a claim for Internet defamation. So you don't want to run and file a case. Having said that, there are grounds that justify the very same. Reputation repair, online reputation repair. This is, of course, important. So there's issues online, there's negative links, there's situations that have resulted in a not so favorable digital presence. So how do we go about repairing them? So for perspective on that, we have a quote from Eric Schmidt: "Identity will be the most valuable commodity for citizens in the future, and it will exist primarily online." In fact, Eric Schmidt in his book, Digital Revolution, talks about how there'll be more people managing reputations than there will be accounting and finance professionals in the United States.
So how we build online reputation management. And we talked about it in our last presentation as well. When it comes to building your online reputation management, you are not predicting things to happen. Noah's rule is like predicting rain doesn't count, building ark does. That's exactly what is to be followed here. Building your online reputation through digital assets, strong profiles, SEO, and digital marketing. That's exactly how it should be done. And a strong online web presence can easily mitigate the impact of negative posts and contributes to sustainable growth in revenue as well.
Can't emphasize that enough. The best the best defense is a strong offense with respect to your reputation, because if you have positive assets out there, it's easier to mitigate the negative ones.
Let's talk about some facts here. We are here to present 8 online reputation management stats, I would say. According to a study by World Economic Forum, on an average, more than 25% of a company's market value is directly attributable to its reputation. 4 out of 5 people state that they have received advice from social media regarding what product or services should be purchased. 78% of consumers trust peer recommendations, while only 14% trust advertising. So you can imagine that advertising, it's not going to help much. 87% of the executives rate managing reputation risk as most important or more important than other strategic risks. So that's exactly what is going to help when you talk about your online reputation management. The stats continues here, like 88% of adults agree or strongly agree that it would be very difficult to remove inaccurate information about them online.
We're going to talk a little bit about that today. Strategies for removing information. We're going to cover removals and suppression.
Absolutely. And 86% of people would pay more for services from a company with higher ratings and reviews, and that's why it is very important to have positive reviews online. 80% of college admissions and offices use Facebook to assess and recruit applicants. That's the reason you should have a very good profile online. 94% of people only look at the first page of Google search results, but only 2% of people own their entire first page. So these are a few stats which tells us that how the people thinking about online reputation these days and why it's so important to have it.
So reputation repair. Let's talk a little bit more about that. So at this stage, it's first important to look at the overall impact of a negative online posting or series of postings on your personal or professional profile or on your business. Is it impacting sales or impeding the sales process? The economic damage of a negative post should be assessed as it plays a role in the budget and plan for your strategy and future tactics. In some cases, just losing the veil of being anonymous and a flash of, you could say a legal letter can compel a previously unknown person to remove a negative post. But will it blow over? When an online crisis hits, it is often best to make a measured assessment to see if negative online coverage gets traction with search engines. Another point to mention here with respect to reputation repair is opportunity cost. If one person mentions, hey, I read that article about you, it could be about somebody else with the same name, for instance, how many people have been interested in working with you, whether it's a law firm or one of your clients' businesses, but they haven't mentioned the defamatory reputation? Reputation repair continued. So it's also, in order to determine options and appropriate strategies, you have to look. It's like when you go to a doctor, for instance, you don't get prescribed first. You need to tell the doctor a little bit. So you have to look at a situation. You have to analyze the links that are out there, the domain authority, what are the options that are pursued, and look at all avenues for coming up with a solution. And that's why reputation management is a new industry, and it's pretty exciting because there's ways that you can go about mitigating a reputation that are becoming increasingly prominent that weren't available before. online reputation repair issues. So here we have some of the issues that take place that could result in a reason for you or one of your clients to have a reputation repair issue. Competitor stratagems. Yes, a competitor is putting information out there that's going to detract. Consumer feedback websites. Somebody's writing a review. Court case filings. There's something that took place and the filing is public. Of course, there's erroneous information. We've solved situations where, let's just say somebody was named John David. Somebody was Googling John David, a successful man, and they were finding somebody who committed crimes and who served, I think, multiple jail sentences under the same name within the same region. So we're able to address that. Of course, name changes, negative news, scandals, slander, hate websites. You can see, hopefully we were breaking down some walls and putting up some bridges on just the depth and breadth of online reputation repair issues that may come up with respect to your firm or with your clients.
So how can we prevent, or how can you prevent damages to your online reputation management, or online reputation, I would say? First of all, it's very important to manage your online image and brand. We cannot emphasize more on it. Control what populates on search engines. Up to some extent, you definitely can do that. Remove or push down or suppress what we call negative content. Restore lost or damaged identity after a reputation crisis. Promote and optimize content across different online channels using social media, using your business profiles. Create a virtual firewall to safeguard from future online attacks, and that's where internet reputation is going to play a big role. You definitely need a strategic and holistic firm reputation management efforts. Typically, it would need a team effort to foster engagement, rotate responsibilities, and create content. Content is king. That's exactly what we've been told by Google since day one. Aside from determining what you will share, the firm's digital marketing committee should determine who will be responsible for sharing content, as well as what days and times they should engage. An editorial calendar, it could be a simple Excel spreadsheet, can assist with management, or the best alternative is always to hire the reputation management experts. So we talk about suppression. What is suppression? So the art and science of using positive digital assets to suppress negative content by promoting existing or new positive internet properties. So what does it mean? So you have a negative article posted about your company on the internet, or there is a negative review online by your ex-client. So what you can do is how you can suppress it down. You start posting positive information. You start creating new assets online. So when you promote those assets, they actually eventually will start suppressing down the negative link. So that whole process is called suppression. So suppression campaigns are conducted for specific keywords and website links. And we also call it reverse SEO because in search engine optimization, we promote keywords to promote businesses and bring those links up in the ranking, whereas in reverse SEO, we actually suppress those negative links down. So it's called also known as the reverse SEO.
And because the Google algorithms have changed and changed so frequently, suppression can be challenging. You could suppress something to the 5th page only to have new news or keywords that end up populating that news again. So we want to quickly just make the point that online reputation management does not equal suppression.
Absolutely. For many companies, ORM and suppression are synonymous. They think that online reputation management and suppression is the same thing. This view has been supported by many of the mainstream reputation management providers. These companies claim that they will review removal options but only offer suppression solutions. And why so? Because suppression is ambiguous and profitable. Suppression campaigns can extend for years, and there can be no results, but still you've been paying for that. And they do not have skills or capabilities to remove links effectively, and that's the reason those companies will only offer you suppression and not the removal of the negative information.
So just to summarize here, your online reputation is all of your digital assets and information out there online about you. Suppression and pushing down negative links is just a subset or one of the strategies for repairing an online reputation. And we found that point to be of particular interest. In fact, I'll be covering a little bit of that at Legal Week next week in New York. Suppression considerations. We're often approached by or directly engaged with both prospective clients and agency partners who've had experiences where there have been, let's just say, challenges. And so when solving ORM issues via suppression, you have to consider all options. For instance, we oftentimes partner with legal marketing firms who have the technical expertise to utilize keywords and write effectively on cases so that the content is of the highest quality. And so there are many factors that will get you to the proverbial tipping point in order to have success on repairing a particular online reputation.
So how is suppression is different from removal? Online reputation management industry is highly subjective and ever evolving. Like we've been saying, Google algorithm, it's changing on regular basis. We have so many algorithm changes, so that's why it is highly subjective and ever evolving. New opportunities and challenges to solve reputation issues must be explored on a regular basis. You cannot just rely on traditional ways of handling your online reputation. You need to have new ways or need to explore new ways as well. Classic suppression techniques and strategies are not as effective as they were several years ago. So according to Insider and search engineers, Google and other search engines are becoming less susceptible to attempts as burying negative information. As such, considering of all removal strategies is essential and no longer a passive option. So we definitely need to consider the removal options and not just think that, yes, suppression is the only option available.
So let's talk about removal strategy number one that we employ. Removal strategy one is called negotiated or sympathetic removal. Now, that usually consists of executives such as myself researching a particular site where a negative link is posted. Let's say it's a news website that syndicated an article of an arrest record for a client of yours, and the client was found innocent. So in a negotiated strategy, you're reaching out, you're building rapport, you're building a relationship. Now, it oftentimes has happened where a client or even a client's attorney has reached out to try to have some of these links removed, and they didn't have success. And that's where we are persistent and patient. And so that's one strategy that we explore exhaustively. How can you build a relationship with somebody at the hosting website to have that link removed and be able to do that effectively? Removal strategy number two is court or lawyer assisted. So you use legal language with a strongly worded letter. You also, where the situation dictates and where there's proof, you can also get court orders to have particular links removed. And of course, that's going to vary depending upon the specific case, and there's many, many factors involved in ultimately doing that. But that is a viable removal strategy without a doubt. Now we have removal strategy three. This is an area that is gaining increasing prominence, and we're spending a lot of time there. And that is finding violations in terms and conditions with internet hostings and service providers. So there's when you sign up to have your website hosted at GoDaddy or Bluehost, you agree to thousands and hundreds of terms and conditions. And if you're able to go and find violations in those, you oftentimes, when there is justification, you potentially can have negative links removed this way, where they're removed from Google's cache. So again, suppression, pushing links down with positive information, and removals is actually having them de-indexed from search engines so they don't appear when they're searched at all. For example, in Europe, you'll find that there is a court of justice in the European Union that actually issued a ruling whereby in Europe you are able to have content removed and submit it with your passport and information. I think it's called the right to be forgotten. And unfortunately, the United States does not have that, and they're pretty strict about that. So if Samir tried to submit a removal through that website, they would need a European passport, etc., in order to get that taken down. Section 230 of Title 47. So passed as part of the Much-Aligned Communication Decency Act in 1996, many aspects of the CDA were unconstitutional, but this was one that remained. And it's been a valuable defense for Internet intermediaries ever since because it doesn't hold them liable for the actual content put out there. So if you have TripAdvisor or you're on Avo, they're not held liable for the content put out there when there are multiple users and third parties publishing information, which further complicates solving reputation management cases as you would naturally expect. And on Section 230 of Title 47, defendant must satisfy each of these prongs to gain the benefit of immunity. And we're going to keep moving here in the interest of time. The U.S. Digital Millennium Copyright Act. This essentially was an amendment to the copyright laws, which was enacted in response to how apparent lack of laws address the nature of technology and how it affects older copyright laws. We could spend a lot of time on that, but we're going to keep going in the interest of time. Consumer Review Fairness Act. This voids provisions in the form of contracts that limit a person's right to publish genuine negative reviews online. And this is where it's really subjective. If somebody has a bad experience, you can't necessarily say, well, no, that's not right to share that. If somebody has a bad experience, that's their opinion, that's their perspective. And so this act also avoids clauses threatening penalties or fines against the authors of such reviews. So this actually protects the consumer for writing negative reviews, which, again, makes the challenge of reputation repair increasingly important.
So we talk about in California, anonymity for online reviewers is slipping away, and how is it actually happening? We talk about two different cases here. In one case in which Yelp and Gregory, Montana were involved, court actually ruled out that internet companies can stand up for or to oppose the unmasking of anonymous reviewers who have posted on their platform. So they were saying that companies on which these websites, or the websites on which these reviews are posted, they can litigate to shield the identity of anonymous poster because their interests are intertwined. But in another case, the bad news was that a similar interpretation from another state appeal court this summer, of course in the same year, anonymous reviewers in California start worrying that they will be exposed if they are sued for defamation. So that is the reason, even if a person who is being anonymous and posting a bad review and it's not actually true, then that their identity can be exposed and they can be sued as well by the law.
We are now entering the Q&A session. During this time, please enter the passcode, which is online. Also, send in any questions that you have for Samir and Rajiv. Please remember that if you are applying for CLE credit, you must attend for the full 60 minutes of the presentation. First question we have is, can you give names of some cases dealing with the issue of venue and online defamation?
We can definitely follow up on that. I just want to make sure I have clarity on the issue of venue. So we can definitely follow up on specific cases on venue.
Okay.
So I want to make sure I know what that is before responding.
Okay, great. The second question we have, when you talk about removing adverse info online, can you address how one can remove info from TruthFinder and similar sites? I mean, beyond their opt-out. Example, I have a client whose wallet was addressed to a stranger. Now that stranger is listed as a known associate of a client and each of his family members, and vice versa.
So with respect to TruthFinder, each website has its own unique policies. There's some websites that will refuse to take down any content no matter what, and that poses a real challenge unless they have a court ruling or unless there's an identity there. So I think that it's important to note that you have to look at each website and each link that's out there individually. And if removals are not possible, which can be the case, then you have to consider suppression options. And so, oftentimes when there is a reputation repair case, you're going to use a combination of strategies. And I don't know the specifics offhand of TruthFinder, but I do know that many of the sites that allow you to post reviews or situations they are getting more and more flexible with respect to allowing some of those to be taken down when you can prove that it wasn't the case, or if you're able to communicate and negotiate and build rapport with the actual poster, sometimes they're just looking to be heard.
Do you suggest everyone in a higher position in a company be on the major social sites like Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn?
Absolutely. I think that's essential. The social media websites are some of the most authoritative web links. And when you think about the first page of Google, there are 10 potential slots there. So if you have a profile on Facebook, LinkedIn, and the major social media, and your firm website, you're automatically having a positive reputation oftentimes for half of the first page. And so when people don't find you on some of those major social media platforms, especially for younger clients, they're thinking that, hey, I don't really know much about them. Can I really trust them? Whereas if they found a smiling photo, they found your work history, they found quality postings you'd had on LinkedIn, that would certainly be an opportunity to build trust.
That was our last question for now. You can continue on with your presentation.
Let's move to Section 3, Best Practices and Key Strategies. So how should an attorney handle negative online reviews? There are many social media networks and platforms, and there are countless ways that a potential client may find out about an attorney or law firm. In consumer searches for legal services, research studies show that search engines, online directories, and social media sites are most commonly used to gather information and find individuals or firms when looking to hire an attorney. One of the standard fears regarding social media is the fear of negative comments, reviews, or ratings. Experience shows that the majority of social media activities will be positive or neutral interactions with law firms and attorneys. However, be prepared for circumstances that may need to be addressed. So let's talk a little bit about each of these steps.
So we talk about the first step of handling negative online reviews. Pause and stay calm. Now, when you read something negative about yourself, which is posted in public domain, it's not easy for us to control our emotions. Now, we can have different emotional and physical symptoms. You can experience it. Like it could be a verbal attack, such as panic, anger, shortness of breath, rage, fear, anxiety, wanting to hide, etc. Those are the different aspects when we talk about something we read negative about ourselves. A quick response or angrily lashing out is not what you should be doing. When you cognitively dissect an argument, that gets out of control. This is where it starts to go off the rails. Someone forgets to calm themselves down and behave rationally early on. So that's why it is very important that when you read something online which is negative, you need to pause and stay calm, first of all.
And we're going to show a few examples of that with attorneys responding to reviews in a moment. So analyze the situation. Who posted it? Try to figure out exactly who posted the review. Is it a client, competitor, a fraud, or an unknown person? And as Rajiv mentioned, it's becoming easier to identify anonymous people. Is the review legitimate? Be honest with yourself. Does the review bring up legitimate concerns with the way you conducted business? We've consulted and advised attorneys where there were clients that had legitimate concerns. They weren't happy. They were busy at the time. They didn't get as much attention. And we've had success with the attorney actually going back to the client and negotiating with them and understanding their circumstances and being able to eventually have them take that down. When was the review posted? Has it been a little while or is it relatively new? Of course, it's important to address reviews quickly. Where is it? How easy is it to find? Can you communicate rationally with the reviewer? I mean, this is pretty important to figure out, and we oftentimes, go to work on reputation cases actually speaking and communicating effectively with the parties involved to solve them. So step 3, take action or not. Do nothing. It's challenging. There are circumstances where, sometimes the best thing is to do nothing immediately. You can also consider flagging the review and responding publicly. Again, because reputation management issues, there's so many of them, and they relate directly to you, your practice, your firm, also to clients. Each case has to be looked at and analyzed independently, and that's something that we take a lot of pride in. So here we have the handling of a negative online review where they reviewed the wrong lawyer. So imagine that. You get a review, and it's actually for the wrong person, and Jay responded diplomatically. He said, I don't know the identity of this reviewer, immediately casting doubt on whether this has taken place. And even though they gave 1 star to Jay, you can see that he's had 39 total reviews, and it's still positive. So this is just a classic case of the wrong lawyer. Let's talk about another one, a fake client. Here's a situation where someone posted, a horror story, and John responded, diplomatically, put the information in there, and was able to mitigate that. Again, he only has 7 reviews, but imagine this. Imagine if he just had 2 or 3 reviews and he had a 1 star. So you can see where our point earlier about building a reputation, asking clients to make sure that they post positive reviews and they have a good experience is important. Here's a negative review for the issue that why should I have to pay? Somebody felt like they didn't receive value, and they gave a 1 star, and they're frustrated. Increasingly, clients, consumers are taking to review sites to get leverage over attorneys, and that's why we're flooded off with questions and cases to help address these, and this is another example. Here we have a case where there was related to immigration law, and this is known as the angry Russian case on AVO, and someone was very disappointed, and you can see that the attorney said, look, dear anonymous poster, let me explain the situation, and they were very candid. So you can see where, let's just say that somebody put that out there anonymously, and you're so upset by it as an attorney, and you do nothing. But look at the response from the attorney. When a prospective client goes and reads that, they're going to say, oh, wow, okay, there was a negative review. But look at how they responded. It doesn't seem like that negative review is truly authentic.
So how to handle online reviews? I think handling online reviews is very important, and you can see the picture shows how most lawyers handle online reviews. We actually try to avoid them. That's a worse way of handling things, I would say. Then there are different online reviews and ratings that are sometimes unflattering. For instance, if you search Travelocity or, like Smee mentioned, on Avo, and if you don't find something, or if you have a 1-star rating and hundreds of 5-star ratings, it's not worth making a big stink out of the minority. Very few people will even read it, seeing that the greater percentage of people have a positive experience. And that's why it is very important to get more and more positive reviews from your clients and customers.
So claim your Avo profile if you haven't. So here we have handling a negative review where the lawyer probably would have benefited from a little bit of patience and step 1 there. So here you have, let's just read this out loud, just for some of you who may not be able to read on the screen. The lawyer responded with, this client was a pimp whose exposure was cut from 200 plus years to 20. He fired his first lawyer after 2 weeks. I would take whatever he says with a grain of salt. The fact that he couldn't face a trial lied. So there you have the attorney getting personal, where sometimes it's better to take the higher road. A more diplomatic response may have been appropriate there. So let's review this an Avo case study. So next client claims that TASAMIS accepted a $1,500 fee. This woman, even though she knew full well that the law in Illinois would prevent them from obtaining unemployment benefits, according to the complaint. And before posting, the attorney had asked the client to remove the review, but the client refused unless she refunded the fee, the complaint said. So Avo took down the review, but the client posted a new, albeit shorter review with the fee allegation, and that's when the attorney responded online. The attorney responded and with, I dislike it very much when my clients lose, but I cannot invent positive facts for clients when they are not there. I feel badly for him, but his own actions in beating up a female coworker are what caused the consequences he is now so upset about. So Betty, the Illinois employment attorney, is accused of revealing confidential information, right, about the case, and she was just responding to the review. You can see where she was upset about this review. She likely or purportedly did her best, but when she responded, she let some of her emotions get the best of her because, you know, reputations are everything.
So we talk about social media and reviews. Despite the alleged newness of social media, because social media is pretty new, all these Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, all new social media assets, the rules of professional conduct have always applied to all the conduct, online and offline, and they should be interpreted the same way regardless of where the conduct occurs. So be it on social media or it's offline, it's the same. Yet the issues that arise seem to confound many lawyers despite guidance from many state and local bar associations, ethics committees, and the fact that rules apply similarly in every venue. So it doesn't matter whether it's online or offline, the rules will always apply.
Social media and reviews continued.
So basically, attorneys cannot reveal confidential or privileged information unless their clients consent, which is a very important rule and needs to be abided by, which means they cannot respond online to reviews and other client criticism by revealing information about their clients, nor may they discuss cases or information that is in a way would identify the clients. If an attorney is prohibited from taking an action, so is anyone who works for or an act on behalf of him or her. So it cannot be attorney himself or any worker of his organization should not be responding to any kind of review online. Better yet, prepare a crisis management plan that addresses every type of scenario your company might face and have it at the ready when needed.
So the New York State Bar Association ruling, a lawyer may not disclose client confidential information solely to respond to a former client's criticism of the lawyer posted on a website that includes client reviews of lawyers. And this one is getting violated more and more. And I encourage you to share this information with your attorney friends, with other colleagues at your office, because reviews are everything. The second you find a negative review, the impulse is to immediately respond, where it's better to take maybe a collaborative approach internally and come up with a viable solution.
So let's talk about 7 tips or 7 ways for happy clients. Make your law firm feel welcoming. Clients should feel welcome when they come to you. Emphasize quality communication. And the communication is the best way to make sure that you have good client or you happy client. Implement technology to provide a better customer experience. That's very important. Expand your services and support team. Make sure that you have enough people handling your clients. Personalize your client interactions. You should definitely be speaking with your clients on a regular basis, and if in person, that'll be great. Perfect the art of follow-up. Follow-ups are very important, and they're going to define how the clients are feeling, because if you're not following up with the client, they may think that you are not caring about them. Use a working client service and support system. And that's very important.
So big takeaway here, and I know many of you attorneys are saying right now, Samir, Rajiv, yes, we do a lot of these things. So if you're doing these things, great. Ask your happy clients to post reviews for you. And go to some of your favorite clients, send them a thank you, make sure that you are proactive in that regard. So let's move into some case studies. I'm going to move quite quickly here. We're going to first talk about an internet defamation case. Dr. David Norris owns Urgent Care for All, a 12-location emergency facility in Ohio. Evidence is presented to him that his chief operating officer, Alicia Clark, is likely embezzling funds and falsifying records and accounts to cover her criminal activity. Alicia is arrested and terminated. 18 months later, the charges are dismissed on a technicality. Dr. Norris elects not to pursue further prosecution because of the time and resources invested in the case already. The following year, and 3 calendar years after termination, Alicia files an online defamation suit against Dr. Norris. She cites Dr. Norris and his erroneous accusations as the primary reason for being unemployed for the past 3 years, and she claims $3.5 million in internet defamation and reputation damages, and saying that it will cost that much to actually fix the case. So costs associated with a suppression campaign and removal campaign, directly correlate to all these factors. And in the interest of time, we're going to keep moving. This is actually representative of an actual case that we solved and worked with subject matter expert witnesses on. When we had this case, of course, names and material information, of course, have been changed. And in our response, we analyzed all aspects of the case. We identified negative links, and we ended up actually proving and showing that removals could be done so that the cost would be significantly less. We also reduced the number of keywords. And so you can see where an internet defamation case, which again is a growing area of practice in the legal realm, as you very well could imagine, given our emphasis on reputation. And we ended up coming in and providing expert deposition work saying that, hey, you know what, it's a lot less to actually fix this reputation than $3.5 million. One of my favorite cases here, Snee versus Gulliver Preparatory School. So former Miami Gulliver Preparatory School headmaster Patrick Snee sued the school for age discrimination after his contract was not reviewed in 2010. In 2011, the case was actually settled with the school for $80,000 with a confidentiality agreement. Unfortunately, Snee shared this confidential information with his daughter. The daughter then went to Facebook and wrote, "Mama and Papa Snee won the case against Gulliver. Gulliver is now officially paying for my vacation to Europe this summer. Suck it." So you can see where there was a violation that took place. The client's daughter instantly put it on Facebook, and you can see here that in the ruling, and it stated that Snee nor his wife could speak about the settlement to anyone except for the attorneys. And it wrote that, Snee violated the agreement by doing exactly what he had promised not to do. His daughter then did precisely what the confidentiality agreement was designed to prevent against, advertising that Gulliver had actually agreed to, and that Snee had been successful in his age discrimination suit. And, based on the clear and unambiguous language of the parties' agreement and Snee's testimony confirming his breach of terms, we reversed the order entered below, granting the Snee's motion to enforce the agreement. Again, Gulliver Schools claimed confidentiality. They filed a motion in court following up to enforce the ruling, saying, you know what, I should be receiving this $80,000. And the school appealed, and ultimately they did not receive that money. Let's look at another internet defamation case, Chef versus Bach. So Carey Bach hired Sue Chef's company, Parents Universal Resource Experts, Pure, which provides referral services for families of teenagers with behavioral problems, to help withdraw her sons from a boarding school in Costa Rica. Chef put Bach in touch with a consultant who helped to remove her sons from the school. However, Bach was unsatisfied with the help she received and posted negative information online. Chef and Pure sued Bach for defamation in Florida State Court way back in 2003, December. In November of 2006, Chef was awarded $11.3 million in damages by Broward County Circuit Court. Jury found a Louisiana woman, Carey Bach, had posted caustic messages against Chef, and her company claimed she was a con artist and fraud, which they found not to be true. So the jury found those charges were completely false and awarded $11.3 million. The next case we want to talk about is a case in which a law firm, we just want to give an example, has negative information out there. So if you Google the law firm Faruqi and Faruqi, you'll see that there is an article out there that is pretty prominent on the first page in Forbes. And I believe one of the partners had called it like a leech on their face, like permanently, because this thing is out there so much. And this link has been out there for quite some time. In fact, even if you Google one of the partners here, you find that it comes up once again. I think it's Faruqi and Faruqi's clouded reputation takes another hit. So every prospective client that's Googling this firm or the lead partner is finding that article on page 1. I mean, when you go to Google, a lot of times you're scanning the entire page. And our, I guess you could say, motto or moral of this one is, and lesson learned is, in any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing, the next best thing you can do is the wrong thing, and the worst thing you can do is nothing. Now, of course, that's not a blanket statement for all situations, but doing nothing here, the point we want to make, is something that is continually harming. But how does a firm know? If you have articles or negative information there about you or about your firm, it's pretty much impossible to be able to measure the opportunity cost. How much business is actually lost as a result of the negative information out there online. Here we have another example where there was a tweet that cost someone $105,000. In the interest of time, we're going to keep moving. There's another example. Anonymous posters have to pay $13 million in defamatory comments. So internet defamation is real. It's becoming increasingly important. Section 5, summary. Just to review some of our learning objectives, providing online reputation guidelines. Again, this is an expansive subject that, just for your reference, we tried to cover as much as we could in an hour. This is a subject we've spoken extensively on for several hours, and even had entire days, of course, with clients on these issues. So we tried to give you a higher level overview, tried to share some best practices for responding to negative online comments and reviews. We hopefully highlighted some of those issues. Here's a little bit about our technology company. Follow us on social media. And now we have some time for some questions.
Thank you. We're now entering the Q&A session. During this time, please enter the passcode, which is online. Also, send in any more questions that you have. First question we have, is there a good way to challenge reviews that you believe are illegitimate, such as instances where the review is made by a user that is no longer registered?
Yeah, I think that is, there is, of course, a way to challenge. Again, it's going to come down to the terms and conditions of the actual review website. A lot of times, and most of the time in their terms and conditions, they're saying, hey, we're not responsible for the information out there. We're not held liable. Third parties publish information. Having said that, negotiated strategies for removal. We've certainly having relationships with many of these review sites and online providers, we've worked to have some of those taken down, particularly like you mentioned in the question, if someone is no longer registered, that may be grounds. Oftentimes, it does come down to sympathetic and negotiated removals in that situation, and it's unfortunately we can't make a blanket statement, but we've had success and our experience on that as well.
Okay, this is the last question we have time for. Why do clients and prospects always prefer firms with a compelling digital presence?
Trust. And that's a great question. With a stellar digital presence, we are increasingly, if everyone just thinks about how often they Google somebody or something. So when you have a stellar reputation online, you are able to have people learn about you and build trust. I think, 57%, clients are almost 57%, I think it was one study, there towards making a purchase decision before they contact you. So having a stellar reputation is going to allow them to better understand all the good work that you've done. It's like, if you shout at the internet and no one's listening, does it make a sound? So you could have done the absolute best work on a case. It could be somewhat revolutionary, and everyone's happy about it at your firm. But if you don't find ways to share that information or make the public or people aware online exactly of your expertise, well, then it may be a challenge for someone who's Googling that particular type of case or that particular type of situation. So it's important to make sure, and we know that the TASA community works with some of the very best attorneys in this country, and we are want to say that if you're doing great work with clients, which we know most of you and all of you probably are, it's important to make sure that your actual reputation you have with your clients is being reflected online. So how does your in-life, in-person reputation be projected and created and built online so that you can continue to do business and grow effectively with choice overload and so many avenues and options with respect to the digital revolution and building a stellar online reputation presence?
Thank you. Please remember that if you are applying for CLE credit, you must attend for the full 60 minutes of the presentation. You are also required to complete the survey at the end of the program. In addition to being your best source for testifying and consulting experts for the past 60 years, TASA also offers free interactive webinars, expert written articles, research reports on expert witnesses such as Challenge History Report 2.0 and Expert Profile 360. I want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for attending, and most especially Somal and Rajiv Sharma for their time and effort in creating this presentation. If you would like to speak with Samir and Rajiv, or if you would like to speak with a TASA representative regarding an expert witness for a case that you are working on, please contact TASA 1-800-523-2319. One of my colleagues will be following up with you regarding your feedback on today's presentation. This concludes our program for today.